Okay, Jordan Fisher. Grease is obviously one of the most beloved musicals, both of the stage and the screen. So when you got the part of Doody, did you feel any kind of pressure at all about, God, I hope I don't screw this up? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's that kind of underlying thing that I think you're. Well, I'd be a fool if I didn't claim that. I mean, it's live. You have a 3-hour window where you can make the thing as perfect as humanly possible, and the goal really is to just take the thing, take the source material, and take that content that everybody already knows and loves, and just give them something that is special to you and meaningful to you. I mean, the show wasn't broken. The script, the dialogue, the music, it's transcended through decades for a reason. And that said, going into it, everybody's mentality was just kind of like, all right, let's have fun. We all know the music and everything already. Let's just do our version of it and hope that people like it. And thank God they did.
yes, they did. So take us back to the beginning. How'd you get involved? Did somebody contact you? Did you have to audition?
Yeah, I actually sang at a wedding party. What was it? Last January, I'd say. Yeah, last January, and there was an exec at Paramount that was at this wedding party. She heard me sing the song and reached out to my management. Kind of just said, "Hey, we're doing Grease Live," which the casting announcement for Julianne had just been released. Like, she was the only person that had been attached to the show. Oh, her and Vanessa. And I'd heard of it, and I was like, "Oh, that's going to be really cool. It's going to be cool to see what they do with it. Hopefully they put a live audience in it, because we've been missing that." And that was kind of just the thought process. Got a call from my management the next day, letting me know that somebody from Paramount was there, and she wanted to put a tape together for Tommy Kail. And so I went to her office. We probably spent half an hour putting this tape together, and sent it off to Tommy. And I heard nothing for probably 7-8 months.
Wow.
Everything. I'd forgotten that it was a thing. I'd forgotten that it had happened until I saw a Deadline article with Aaron Tveit's name attached to it, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. They're doing that. That's crazy." I completely forgotten about it, and I got a call that Tommy was coming in town and wanted to meet, so I went and met with him and sang him a song, and got the call. I think it was like 2 days later that we were starting rehearsals in a few weeks, and just like that, it came, and we did it, and it ended just as quickly as it began.
Mm-hmm. So when you got the role of Doody, I love saying that name. Makes it feel like I'm 5 years old again,
Funny story. I went and saw Hamilton after we finished the show. I went to New York for a few days to do some more press work and that kind of thing, and saw the show. And Chris Jackson, who plays George Washington in the show, has been a good buddy for many, many years. And I had hung out with Lynn a couple of times before Grease, and we hung out, we went bowling afterwards, and he put my name in as Doody, and he walked up to me and said, "You're Doody." And I was like, "Okay, thank you. All right, my cake and ice cream's over there. I'll see you in a minute." It's just, of course, it's an interesting name.
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to the real question.
Yeah, sure.
So how did you put your unique spin on that character?
So being a theater head in general, and being a fan of the show and its original nature on Broadway, I wasn't lucky enough to see the Chicago run. I wasn't even thought of yet. But I was a fan of the show, and a fan of the fact that you get to learn a little bit more about everybody else. When you watch the film, of course, it's Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta, and you get to you know Sandy, and you know Danny, and you really get to know Rizzo and Kaniki, and everybody else is kind of, they obviously play an intricate part of the story, but that they're the main four, definitely the backbone. Where I think in the show and the musical, you really get to know about Sonny and Doody. You care about Jan and Marty and Frenchie and what everybody has going on. Like, by the end of the show, you really care about this group of friends and how they come together and how the relationships work and the social dynamic and how that plays out with the rest of the school. I mean, but you care about them, and our writers definitely wanted to pay homage to that beautifully so. And that said, they approached and said, look, we love we love those magic changes. We hate that that wasn't a moment in the film. Sean and I sang it for like 30 seconds in the background, and they said we want to make it a moment, and make it a moment for the show, and allow people to care about Doody and his dreams and his desires and his goals. And that said, going into the show, I was like, you know what, I'm getting to do something that not a lot of people get to do, and it's take a show that people already really know, but give them some more information, and basically read them the spark notes in that 3-hour window that we talked about earlier, and do that as Doody, and really just kind of create something from scratch. Of course, we had Barry Pearl on the show, which was an honor to be able to play with him and kind of be in that playground, if you will. We met a few years ago. We did a show together. He filled in for I did a show actually in Pasadena with Ben Vereen and Richard Karn.
Oh, wow.
And Bruce Valanche. Yeah, it was a blast. We did Aladdin, and Ben Vereen was my genie, and we had a really good time. And Barry stepped in as the Sultan one night due to a family incident for Richard Karn, and we became fast friends. And we were like, man, we got to work together. We got to work together one day. It's going to be really great. We're gonna do something together. We're gonna do something together. And then I got the call about Doody, and reached out to him and was like, hey, I'm going to be Doody, blah, 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 blah. And he said, oh, that's amazing. And then he got a call a few days later asking for him to be part of the show, and being able to be on that set with him was a great thing. But the question always comes back around, like, did Barry give you any insight? Did he give you any advice or anything along those lines? And he told me from the first table read, with tears in his eyes, he said, I get emotional thinking about it now. I'm proud to be able to pass the torch, and that kind of allowed me to again continue to pay homage to the original content, because again, nothing was broken, and at the same time be able to play and do something that hasn't been done yet. So I really I got to play. It was a blast.
Well, that's great. So speaking of playing, take us into the rehearsal process. This is a wildly ambitious thing that you guys did.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, from day one, the social dynamic where the T-Birds and the Pink Ladies are concerned is obviously very tight. They're kind of a Rat Pack family that, everybody's got a different upbringing and different family story and so on and so forth. And I think it's the beauty of the subjectivity of these relationships that make the cast as dynamic as it is. It makes the characters as rich as they are. Going into the first day of rehearsal, we were all in love with each other. I mean, from the moment we all laid eyes on each other, it was hugs and kisses all over the place. We just became obsessed with each other. And I think, again, psychologically, there is this thing subconsciously where, you kind of have a song playing in your head. There's like, oh, we get to do this thing that we've all been dreaming of doing for forever. We've all played, Danny and Sandy and in our basements and pretended to be a T-Bird or a Pink Lady at some point in time in our lives. It's just, this material has been that for such a long time. It's the most successful musical ever. And it really hit home from day one that we were doing something that not a lot of people will ever get to do, ever. And that was the driving force of our rehearsal process. That was the nature of our conversations and our games and our rehearsal processes. It was our everything. I mean, the blood and the sweat and the tears that went into the show all resulted in us loving the fact that we got to do this show that we've all been dreaming of doing, and got to do it with each other. I haven't been a part of many casts where there is 100% mutuality and love and respect for everybody, and it's a phenomenon, and it's a bit of an anomaly. It doesn't happen as often as you would hope, and that was very much the case from day one, and that made it so much more fun.
Mm-hmm. And so then how early did you get onto the Warner Brothers lot and start rehearsing it for cameras and all that? Because I mean, it was so complicated, and I've talked to a lot of people who worked on your show, and there's all these like multiple sound stages, and you're like jumping on and off of golf carts, and so talk about piecing that together, after you guys have been rehearsing it for that long.
There is this simplicity to Big Ben, the clock tower in London, that is so beautiful, and it's so majestic, and it's so powerful. If you walk inside and you look up, you see all of these cogs and these gears and these machines, some huge, some tiny, that make the big ones run. There is this complication to the simplicity that makes the thing work as well as it does. And there's a foundation there. There were 400, 500 people attached to the show that made it what it was. And I'm grateful that it looked as seamless as it ended up looking. Because, I mean, of course, it felt that way after weeks and weeks and weeks of rehearsal. To answer your question, in a long version, I mean, we got onto the set, let's see, one time just before New Year's, actually. It was the week after Christmas. We went on set, and we basically just kind of did a tour of Warner Brothers and saw, the people were putting some finishing touches on certain sets, and certain sets were still skeletons, and there were things that weren't painted yet. But you could really kind of, for the first time in 4.5 weeks of rehearsal, you got to see the playground, you got to see the sandbox, and we did. And then we went on a break for New Year's, and then I think it was like January 3rd or 4th, we were back in at Warner Brothers. And then that's when the game begins. That's when you start piecing all of those cogs and gears together. All of a sudden, we went from a team of 14 people to begin with to 20-something, to 50-something, to 500. And then you're seeing all of these faces and shaking all of these hands, and inevitably some that you don't get around to just because of the amount of people that are attached. And you take a look back and you just go, wow, I can't believe it takes this many people. We had like 23 golf carts. We had like 60-something cameras. We had, multiple sound stages. We had half of a backlot. We had so many moving parts that made it what it was. It was the most challenging thing that I think any of us had ever done, but just as rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So take us on to the day of shooting. I know you guys had a lot of backstage drama with, Vanessa Hudgens' father passing away, and then this monster rainstorm that was going to shut you guys down. So, what were those last minute, right before you're about to go on? What was the atmosphere like there?
Excited. I don't know that nervous is the word. Nervous to me means you want it to be over. And none of us wanted it to be over. A lot of us who used to rehearsing on shows, if we've done theater, you rehearse for a show for however long, weeks, months, and then you put it on, and then you do it for a while. And from day one, we had to remind ourselves, okay, we're doing this one time. We're preparing, and emotionally, physically, mentally, to do this thing artistically one time. And then we're going to say, we go together. Okay, bye-bye, I love you. And that was that. And from the moment we all walked on set, there was definitely a different air. It was still positive. It was, there was the questions of, okay, how are we going to handle the wind gusts? How are we going to handle the rain? How in the world are we going to help Vanessa through the day? And we all kind of took our time and individually went up to her and kind of just said, look, how can we make this day as easy for you as humanly possible? And her answer to everybody was, just being here and doing the show is going to be the best thing for me right now. And she is a pro, handled it like a pro, performed like a pro. And that was really the mentality for everybody. We were obviously dealt a card by Mother Nature that you can't always be prepared for, especially living in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. What are the odds? And then on this one day, there would be a monsoon, and it felt like a hurricane. The wind gusts were just ridiculous. But
I was here for it.
Yeah, incredible. People still showed up, as you know. People still showed up and came and were a part of that experience with us. And it's funny. I think the moment that we saw the vets outside, we saw our armed forces standing outside in the rain, there to see a show that they all already knew and loved. It kind of put us in a really special place, and gave us an energy that we knew would come. There's kind of that extra tank you have in your system as a performer. You give so much in the rehearsals, and then you give just that little bit extra when you have an audience, and then that little bit extra when you know it's the very last time you're going to do it. You know, we had an opening night, previews, and a closing night all in 3 hours. And the mentality, you know, just before we hit 4 o'clock and the cameras went on, was just, let's just soak this all up. Let's just have a blast. Let's get to the opening number and try to calm down and settle down and do the thing that we've done 90 times, because we had at that point.
Mm-hmm. You know, you talk about seeing those Army vets out there, and I think that that element of audience being added to this really, I mean, it influences the way that you guys do it. You know, I mean, so I mean, what was the energy like? You know, working off the audience. You know what I mean? I mean, you've been rehearsing by yourself for all this time, and it's so atypical to have that for a TV production.
Yeah. Wow. I think when you put the word live at the end of a title, it should be that. And, you know, no offense to what anybody else has done prior where these shows are concerned. I mean, if there's not an audience, it might as well not be live. I think that there's a certain dynamic. There's this term I like to use called social intercourse that happens between a performer and an audience that you can't replicate. That's why people still go to shows live. That's why people still pay tons of money to go see their favorite concerts or their favorite Broadway shows or their favorite whatever. It's because they want to experience that thing that you can't feel, you know, sitting on your couch at home watching the thing on television or what have you. Having the audience there made the show as successful as it was, 100%. You know, of course, our producers, our director, our everybody, the cast, the crew, everybody played a very, very, very important part to the show. But that audience as characters in the show, as our second, third, and fourth wall, that it's hard to articulate. You just, I have no. I can't tell you as a performer how much, you know, we appreciate having that, having the laughter after a joke, having the applause after a number that they enjoy. There's a different kind of thing. There's an extra special energy that you just simply cannot be replicated or induced unless you have that dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So now that this is all wrapped up, you've gotten back to your music full time. You're a very busy man right now, from what I hear. I mean, you're touring and you've got an album and a single. So talk a bit about what you're working on now.
Yeah, it's that. I just finished an 8-week-long radio tour promoting my first single off of my album. I actually just found out this past week that I'm the second most added artist in Top 40 radio, which I'm very grateful for, very excited about.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's the first single off of the first album, and that is it's a special thing. It's got to be introductory. It's got to really create a sonic foundation for people, fans, or people that are even slightly interested to kind of go off of. You know, if they think of my name, they've got to think of a sound, and I've spent the last however many years cultivating that sound and putting the content together. So I'm really excited to put it out. So that's really my life over the next while is, promoting my single, promoting the album, and getting ready to go on tour. And then when that perfect film comes along, then, take a quick break and go and do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And congratulations on Grease Live and on your music. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.